Hi, everyone. Diana Rankin here. And this is our weekly messages from Philip, our weekly psychic messages and soul message. And this is the 11th week of the year 2020. And it is for the 8th, March 8th through the 14th. See, I have a calendar here. Whoops. I have a calendar here so I can figure out the dates. I'm not good at dates, I forget them. I always have to look at the date because I put the dates in my journal when I write, and where am I? Something like 167, 68 journals now. So I've been writing journals pretty much my whole life. So daylight savings time begins this Sunday, and the full moon is on Monday, and Commonwealth Day is in Canada this week. So busy week coming up, isn't it? So we're going to get started. We're going to answer one of your questions. I thank you for sending these questions in, by the way. I love it. Some of the questions I've asked Philip myself, and so the answers, I always learn something. But some of them, the answers are really surprising because it's a question I haven't answered or asked. And so the question today is one of those questions I hadn't asked Philip, and so it was really a surprising answer. A couple of things before we get started, and welcome everyone, and those of you who are new to my channel. I'm so grateful you're here, and for those of you who come back every week, thank you so much. I'm just so grateful, and thank you for the comments, and thank you for the questions. I do ask that you keep the questions general, that rather than personal questions. If you have personal questions, you can make an appointment with me, and we'll set up a session for you. Just give me a call. The information's below in my little description area, and give me a call, and we'll get you set up for a session. Or you can just go to the website and learn more about it. We will get an answer, our comment or our answer for the week, our soul message. Each page in this book has a different wisdom on it, so we just open to any page, and that's our message for the week. Want to tell you also, just real quickly here, we have room for one more participant. That's it. And then I'm closing the workshop. So this is pretty much the last week to sign up. It's the last week, I think Saturday even. No, I'm sorry. It may have even, it's the 6th. The price goes up after that. But anyway, we have room for one more. So if you're interested, get a hold of me right away. Also, just a reminder, this book is available on Amazon. It's 52 processes to help you find joy in your life. It's really an important book to have in your life right now. So thank you for those who have purchased it, and it does seem to be doing pretty well. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful it's able to help people. So we're going to get started right away here with Philip's question, because it's a really, well, when I say long answer, long compared, it's a few extra, a little bit longer than our usual answers. And so it's not really, really long. You might also hear Daisy walking around. She just got up off her bed, so you might see her behind me or walking around. She had her first acupuncture treatment, so she's doing a little bit better. She fell and hurt her hip, but she's not a young girl anymore. So there she is. She's right here. So we're glad she's doing better. All right, here we go. The question is, shouldn't we be alarmed at the rising fascism and authoritarianism in our country, meaning the U.S.? How do we cope with the anxiety? The writer then goes on to say, I believe much of the anger is at the government officials who have betrayed their oaths and commitments to the American people, and people are frustrated and afraid. So we're going to address all of this, and here's what Philip had to say. It might surprise you. Let us begin by saying, from the spiritual perspective, all are playing out the roles you assigned yourself before birth. The explanation for this we have previously discussed. A couple of weeks ago, you'll remember I read from this book, The Found Child, and it talked about how before we come into life, we form our teams, and it was the woman sitting at the monitor looking at the different life choices she had. So that's what Philip's referring to there. So if you missed that video, I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. Once you choose a role, Philip goes on to say, you will also choose the factors that will best help you fulfill that which you wish to experience. And that's what we talked about in that other video. Once you choose a role, you will also choose the factors that will help you to fulfill that which you wish to, will best help you to fulfill that which you wish to experience. One of these factors is to choose the country that will best help you fulfill your promise to yourself. So we even chose what country we want to live in. And I think what he's saying there also is we chose our country of birth, or we chose to come at a later date, either one. Now know that in spirit, there are no countries. This indeed is strictly a function in the human realm. Let us consider why countries were formed, as in the history of humans, it has not always been so. Before the great population explosion of the human species, there was no need for countries. Before the explosion, the population explosion of we humans, there were no countries. Think about that. The earth was here, critters were here, but there were no countries. There were even those who walked upright, but there were no countries. There were even humans, but there were no countries. Philip goes on to say, even as the early humans came into being, there was no need for the division of land, which led to the division of countries. Borders that said, I am of this, you are of that. Division. This began as humans evolved from hunter-gatherers to agricultural societies. Once humans began to plant seeds, they became territorial. It was at this time the population could multiply as well. If we think about that, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because when we were hunter-gatherers, we were moving, and so we were not populating nearly as much as once we became agricultural cultures. And it just kept going from there, didn't it? Humans began to think in terms of ownership, which led to the experience of greed and mine versus yours. From this came governments and those who would lead the governments. Let us skip to the world you live in, what you call the modern day world. There are different types of governments that exist in the human realm. Keeping in mind the soul chooses the experiences, does it not then follow the soul will choose the country with the government that best allows the individual to live out their chosen experiences? The question concerns the country that is the United States of America. This country is made up of those who wish to experience freedom, but freedom requires a great deal of self-reflection and self-responsibility. Many who choose to come into life in this country or come at a later age have the memory of life before governments were so divided and restricted. They have the memory of life experienced as hunter-gatherers. These are the older souls who understand the responsibility of freedom. Most of these souls cherish freedom. I want to remind you, and again, this goes back quite a few videos, maybe 6 or so, where we talk about young souls, middle-aged souls, teenage souls, old souls, etc. However, there are several in this group, we're talking about the old souls now, who brought fear with them in memory, so to them freedom's cost is too high. Another group came into the human existence once governments were formed, so their experience is different, and their perception of freedom is less broadly understood than that of the souls with more life experiences. Unless one has the personal experience, it is often difficult to understand what the experience is to be. Every human experiences from their own perception. I'm going to repeat that because I think that is such an important statement. Every human experiences from their own perception. All this said, there is struggle in the United States between those who understand freedom and those who seek to understand and want freedom versus those who are afraid of freedom and those who do not seek to understand freedom. So we have those who, the old souls who want and understand freedom, and newer souls who chose to come into this U.S. country seeking freedom. And then we have the older souls who are afraid of freedom, uh, and the newer souls who don't understand freedom. So those are our factions there. To put it simply, one side wants freedom, the other side does not. Since those who chose to experience life in a country of freedom, we suggest that it is only fear and misunderstanding holding them from doing so. An authoritarian regime can only come about when the people allow it to. The same is true of fascism. When the people feel they are not being heard by their leaders, they change their leaders. This must be done by recognizing the fear of the citizenry. The citizens. He said citizenry, but I can't say the word, can I? Which can only be changed through the actions of love. We remind you that each individual chose to come into life in the country in which they live, to have the experiences of the country at this time. Is it not possible then that you chose to help the country of freedom? I'm going to repeat that because I think it's important. And I will also repeat our last sentence that I haven't yet read. But here's what I just read, and I'm going to repeat it because I think it is so important to hear for all of us to hear. We remind you that each individual chose to come into life in the country in which they live, to have the experiences of the country at this time. Is it not possible then that you chose to keep the country free? Keep in mind, the other doesn't make us angry or fearful. We do that to ourselves. Keep in mind, the other does not make us angry or fearful. We do that to ourselves. I put a click here. I put a link to the meditation I did for personal and planetary healing. And to help the anxiety, I suggest you go to that website, to that link. It's a YouTube video that I made back in 2017. And it still holds true today. I was going to make a new one, and I thought this one still works. So that will help relieve the anxiety. It's not about ignoring the anxiety. It's really about recognizing it and working it through. There, again, I give you 52 ways of doing that in this book as well. We're here for a reason, my friends. We're all here for a reason, and you're listening to this message for a reason. And let me just, again, repeat that last paragraph, because I think that is such an important paragraph. We remind you, my book is making noise there as I open it. We remind you that each individual chose to come into life in the country in which they live, to have the experiences of the country at this time. Is it not possible then that you chose to keep the country free? Keep in mind, the other doesn't make us angry or fearful. We do that to ourselves. Let's get our message from Philip. Think left page, right page. If you think the page that I also get, then your intuition's working fine. If you get the opposite page, perhaps that's a personal message for you, because I always read the opposite page as well. So I'm getting right page. And it always astounds me, and it doesn't, that everything here, that we always get the message that goes right along with what Philip just told us. So thank you. And it simply is, life must be lived as you live. Life must be lived as you live. And what that's really saying is our lives how we live our lives is what we're going to experience. On the other side, the teacher is also the student. The teacher is also the student. But our big message this week is life must be lived as you live. So live your lives, my friends, in love, not fear. Live your lives with courage, because courage is needed to live in love these days. And remember, love is an action verb. So that means that love is about doing kind acts, even if it's as simple as smiling at a stranger. It's as simple as speaking kindly to someone you're angry with, but working it through in a kind way. It may mean giving dollars to those in need. Be kind, my friends. Act in love. And start that love with yourself. That's the most important person. Start that love with yourself. From Daisy and Diana, we thank you for being with us. We thank you for sending us your questions. You can put them in the comments below, or you can email me with the questions, whatever works for you. We thank you. We bless you. And we thank you for the love that you give to us. And we thank you for helping us spread that love. Tell your friends about this channel. Until we meet again.